warning, like, you better go live, and we are live, but I don't know if we're live yet, so we'll just talk, and we'll just let it breathe, and we'll go, week 3, you wicked mistress. Okay, here we go, and we'll go on in, how about this? There we go. Mwah, to our audience, waiting for you.
Always. Kisses.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Well, I guess it only took 3 weeks for the Bills to fire up. Oh my God, Buffalo, 43-21, the final score over Washington. Week 3 recap. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom on the Audible. Taylor Heineke, I mean, they were down 14 at halftime, so he's backed in a corner throwing it. 212 passing, 2 up, 2 down. Antonio Gibson, only 31 yards on the ground. Heineke rushing touchdown, by the way. But he had one catch, 73 yards and a touchdown, saving his day. McLaurin, 4 for 62. It's enough. Logan Thomas, 4 for 42 and a touch. So here we go. Buffalo. Man alive, did they make a statement today? In Washington, there wasn't a lot they could do.
No, you really saw Taylor Heineke come back to earth here, not facing the Giants, facing the Bills, a tough, disciplined defense that doesn't give up anything too easily. And it still was a solid fantasy day because the Washington defense is not good. Headline, we'll get to that. So he got the rushing touchdown. He had a garbage time touchdown to Logan Thomas, who had a fumble that helped this game get out of control. It was 21-0, I think, at one point, and they got a touchdown. And then the wind in Buffalo caused the kickoff to hang up. See, we got to look it up in the record books. A kicker recovering his own kickoff at about the 20-yard line. So it was that kind of day, folks. It really felt like preseason today. It was bad football at times. It was sloppy football. It was discombobulated football. It was embarrassing football at times. It wasn't really quite embarrassing for Taylor Heineke, and he helped you out as a quarterback too, Superflex. You were wondering, why did I take Antonio Gibson? We took a little dump off to the house. That's why I took Antonio Gibson. But don't get too excited. He still split the snaps, I think about 33-25 or so with J.D. McKissic, and if Washington's defense is bad, that's going to get them into more high-scoring games. That's going to mean more McKissic. By the way, Gibson dropped a second touchdown. So you were happy with what you got from Gibson today, finally, but you could have gotten more. Again, Thomas got the touchdown. McLaurin got a few. And yet, Cease, this is good enough to compete in the NFC East and probably good enough to compete with the Falcons next week.
Good enough to compete, but not today against Buffalo. Josh Allen, insane. 4 touchdowns passing, 358 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Zach Moss, 13 for 60 on the ground. Of course, a dump off near the end zone, 3 for 31 and a touch there. Devin Singletary, 11 for 26 on the ground, and then looks like a catch for 0 yards. Cole Beasley, 11 for 98. Manuel Sanders, E-Gun-Do-E, 5 for 94 and 2 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, 6 for 62, including some important plays to keep the chains moving. Dawson Knox gets a touchdown, 4 for 49 and a touchdown there as well. Not much else from anyone else because they didn't need it. Mitchell Trubisky, this is a rich man, poor man. Right? It's a Adam Carolla thing that he used to do on the radio. Like, you can have an outdoor shower. That's a rich man or poor man, right? Mm-hmm. Mitchell Trubisky plays. That's rich man, poor man, because it's either Mitchell Trubisky plays, oh my God, something's wrong with Josh Allen, or Mitchell Trubisky plays because, well, it's victory formation.
Yeah. That reminds me of the Bennett brothers. I can't remember if it was Martellus or Michael that said, I think it was Martellus. I want people to wonder, is he a millionaire or is he homeless? So I think I tried to do that. By the way, I present myself out in the world. Yeah, Josh Allen's fine. I thought maybe you saw the accuracy problems coming back next week, that he wasn't going to be that guy, but at least against defenses that are not very good, yeah, he's going to be that guy. And that's something we, again, need to take away here. We'll see what Matt Ryan and company does against Washington next week. When we saw the Giants hang 29, and it could have been a lot more. There's a lot of Graham Gano field goals in that 29. Maybe we could have taken note that this was going to be a get-right week, and spoiler alert, Houston next week, so don't expect this offense to slow down. And it became a pass-heavy offense. You saw Emmanuel Sanders looking good. You saw Cole Beasley hoovering up all those short targets, moving the chains. Stephon Diggs, not as big a part of the offense, didn't need to be as big a part of the offense. His time will come. Even Dawson Knox had a terrific sprawling touchdown catch, getting the knee down inbounds. He's got some fantasy value. The backfield, boy, how things change so quickly. Sees a healthy scratch after week 1, Zach Moss. And then we find out, no, there was a health issue. Then he scores 2 touchdowns the week he buries his aunt last week, and now he's clearly the better play. We saw Devin Singletary did get some touches, but on his most important touch of the game, and remember, the Bills put, 43 up on the board? It could have been more. Singletary got tackled on a 4th and 2 for no gain. Jamin Davis, the first-round rookie, just engulfed him. I think that was a play that we maybe cemented that this is going to be, at least for fantasy, a backfield where we prefer Moss. Moss was always in the red zone, getting a touchdown here on a reception. Everything's fine in Buffalo. And see, when we look over the whole AFC this week, again, the message is it's wide open. And that's good news for the Bills. After they go in week 1, the Steelers come into their house, ruin their party. And who's feeling better after week 3, Cease? Who's feeling like a legitimate Super Bowl contender? It ain't the Steelers.
No, God, no. Frauds. Bears and Browns up next, 26-6, the final score. Browns get the win with Justin Fields. Oh, man. There was a point as I'm getting ready for the Broncos game, Bloom, right? Just got red zone on and just, get ready to go and all that kind of stuff. And there was somebody said, like, oh, Fields just passed 50 yards on the day. And I looked up and it was the third quarter. And I was like, did I hear that wrong? Like, right. Wasn't able to dial into this one yet, but oh my God, Justin Fields, 68 yards passing on 6 of 20, sacked 9 times, Ferris, 9 times. David Montgomery, 10-34, not much on the ground because there just wasn't anything. Allen Robinson, 2 for 27, Cole Kmet, 1 for 11, Darnell Mooney, 1 for 9. So there you have 4 receivers that caught passes. That's it. David Montgomery, right. 2 for 21, by the way. And with Fields, like, he's a rookie, it's going to be rough. You've got Nagy, he's not a good coach. But with right. Fields, just like in college, Fields, my main knock on him was like he goes through his progressions. He went through his progressions more than any other quarterback in this draft class. He needs to speed it up. His processor needs to be faster. And there was just times when I was screaming when I did watch a little bit of the Bears, and I was like, run, just run, dude. Like, you're a rookie. You don't know what you're doing. If you drop back and you whatever and run, who cares? You're at least picking up positive yards, and
right.
It was not a positive day today.
No, it wasn't, Cease. And it's so funny seeing the roller coaster of emotions for Bears fans because they trade up for Fields and they try to actually get a quarterback, and you're happy for them. But you also know that in some ways this buys Nagy and Pace another 3 years. But does it? Should it? This is a test for the Bears franchise. Can you see that Matt Nagy gives your team no advantages? No, and look, the offensive line's a problem, all right? Justin Fields, I'm going to borrow from the world-famous Eric Stoner. Justin Fields doesn't have a process yet. He doesn't really have a way, a regimented way of engaging NFL defenses yet. Matt Nagy gave him no help at all. See,
he's a moron.
Yeah, I saw absolutely no evidence that they changed anything. Yeah, as FQD saying in the chat room, no adjustments. They didn't change anything. Fields and Dalton could not be more different. And they didn't change anything, and that I could see at least. 8 sacks, 4.5 from Myles Garrett. You don't want anybody in this offense. And maybe things will start to get going. Next week, Chicago is going to face Detroit. So maybe things could get going because of their opponent. Maybe poor coaching, poor preparation won't matter. But I think we can see that Matt Nagy is just not the guy to lead this franchise into the future. Maybe right. Justin Fields is. But we can't find out if Justin Fields is if Matt Nagy is the coach of this team. So, again, we saw this Chicago team. Where would they be if Joe Burrow didn't throw 3 interceptions and 4 passes last week? They'd probably be 0-3. And that's where things are headed right now. And now and again, see the roller coaster because the Giants have the Bears first round pick next year. So, that's looking like a pretty good first round pick to own. Again, Detroit's coming, and that's going to be, we thought Jacksonville was a comedy in week 1. This one's going to be a tragic comedy.
Yeah, and I'll say this: just hope it doesn't ruin Justin Fields.
Yeah, and it's the same thing
with Urban Meyer. It's the same thing with Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. It's like, okay, just don't ruin him because you have something that could potentially be great. You don't have that with your head coach. Your head coach is garbage. Chicago, you're wasting your time. You have a garbage head coach.
Yeah.
And how can I say that? One,
Like,
because
fire
I'm
him
watching
now.
enough Nagy football. Yeah, get rid of him
Fire
now.
him now.
Eliminate him now. And
yeah.
here's how you tell in the coaching world, because y'all think the egos are big on the field. Like, those players, they're millionaires and they're egos. The coaching staffs are worse.
Way worse.
Coaching staffs might be the worst. And here's how you know when you don't change a thing. Yeah. When you're like, well, this is my system and this is the way I do it and this is the way I've always done it. Like, no. That's you. Matt Nagy, it's on you. You stink. You're terrible. You need to be gone. And hopefully you don't ruin the Bears' first round quarterback. Brown side. And again, Bloom, this game wasn't out of hand.
No.
It was 10-3 at halftime. You know what I mean? If it's like, let's say Jets Broncos, always a Broncos show, right? And the game's out of hand, and you're just like, oh my God, poor rookie, he doesn't have a chance. No, it's 10-3. It's 10-3 at halftime. You can make adjustments, you can do things, you can make your quarterback comfortable, and Nagy didn't want any of that. The comments that he made during the week, I think FQD tweeted him at me, like, it's just, he doesn't get it. And when you don't get it, and the whole offensive genius thing, we already know he's not a genius. Anyway, it's never personal, right? Baker Mayfield, 246 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Odell Beckham Jr. returned, had him as a wide receiver 3, but I did get a lot of like ODB questions today. I haven't had an ODB or Kamara question. I was like, oh, it's Kamara always, but ODB 5 for 77. So, you had him in as a wide receiver 3 flex play. That's enough. Kareem Hunt had the rushing touchdown, 10 for 81, also 6 for 74 as a receiver. Nick Chubb, 22 carries, hard-fought carries for 84 yards. Not much else from anyone else. Austin Hooper had a touchdown, but nobody started him. But Bloom, this is what the Browns did. They rallied, they played tough football, and they feasted defensively on that young rookie.
Yeah, the Browns, on the other hand, they have a head coach to lead them into the future and probably a quarterback. Baker Mayfield's going to get paid. He's leading this team. You can really see he's taking responsibility for the team he's taking on his shoulders. Even early on, they go for it on 4th down twice, and he gets sacked twice. And it doesn't really fluster him at all. You don't see him hang his head. So some of that Baker Mayfield personality that's projected, it really does help the team. And he really walks the walk in addition to talking the talk. The star of this game was Kareem Hunt. And this was like Kansas City Chiefs Kareem Hunt. This is prime Kareem Hunt. Breaking tackles, the burst, the low center of gravity. And if you had him on the bench this week, you probably aren't going to have him on the bench again, even though he may go back to giving you only 6, 7, 8 points. It was a little bit of a disappointment for Chubb not getting any touchdowns, but that's just how it goes. Hooper had a touchdown in the 2-minute drill. Donovan Peoples-Jones had a really beautiful catch early in the game, but Odell Beckham returned to his rightful place atop this target share tree, if you don't count Kareem Hunt. And maybe Beckham's best catch of the day didn't count, but you see the body control, you see the hands, he's coming around. Browns are just taking care of business. We can go back to week 1. They coulda, shoulda, woulda beat the Chiefs, and they're beating bad teams decisively. Minnesota, and again, Cecil, we're going to eat crow on this one. Minnesota, not a bad team. Definitely not a bad team. So
showing that fight that we were reminded of, Minnesota fans came out of the woodwork, which is good. We're fine with that. I'm fine. Correct this. Like, I got broad shoulders.
I'm only going to be wrong
when we're like, man, they're giving up. And Minnesota fans like, they're not going to do that on Zimmer. And they certainly didn't do that today.
No, and we're going to see also Stefanski against his old team next week. So that's kind of fun. Stefanski Bowl. And for the Browns, best team in the AFC North, Cecil? I think best team in the AFC North.
Best team in the AFC North. Oh, yeah, easily. Because we've got Ravens and Lions up next. And on the Ravens side, again, there's the reputation like, oh, it's Baltimore. Oh, man, they're so unstoppable. And then on the reality side, it's like Detroit almost beat you. 19-17, the final score. Now, Lamar Jackson, 287 through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. Also 7 for 58 on the ground. Nobody else did anything. I mean, 7 for 28 on the ground for Murray, 5 for 22 for Tyson Williams, and then Mark Andrews, Mandrew, had 5 for 109. Expect him to do that next week against Denver. Sammy with 4 for 68, which might be the final gasp for Sammy because you have then Rashad Bateman potentially coming back next week. Marquise Brown 3 for 53, but how many drops, touchdowns, Bloom? Like 2?
At least 2 or 3, depending on your interpretation.
So here you go. And Devin Duvernay, who nobody started, got the actual touchdown. So Baltimore, you escaped Detroit, but you shouldn't feel great about this win.
Cease, there's Hail Marys, and then there's what happened in this game, right? I mean, There's like the band. This is almost approaching the band is on the field kind of level of total unbelievable. We throw the word unbelievable around a lot. This game was truly unbelievable. The Ravens, if Hollywood Brown was catching his long touchdowns, this game probably would have gotten out of hand. All right. He dropped 2 easy long touchdowns. So if you started Marquise Brown today and you were disappointed, just know it was there. If you started Lamar Jackson today and you thought there was more there, you're right. There was more there in this matchup. But they barely got the running game going, which was surprising to me. Because this is a team, teams that really rely on the running game, especially the way the Ravens do with Lamar Jackson making an 11-on-11 football, it just gets you in your mode. The whole team. The whole team feeds off.
It's a rhythm. It's a rhythm.
Yeah, it's like when the Steelers had Jerome Bettis. That would spark the defense. Why they went away from Tyson Williams so early, why they really didn't get Murray or Williams in a rhythm is beyond me. I wonder if next week against Denver that the Ravens will rethink this and use the run to set up the pass. Not that Lamar Jackson's passing was off. Lamar Jackson's passing was fantastic. Duvernay got open on a busted coverage. It's still Detroit. There were busted coverages or bad coverages. Again, Hollywood Brown should have had 2 long touchdowns. It did allow Mark Andrews to have a big game. You also had Sammy Watkins making the big catch to set up the end of this game. But what you saw here, and Detroit's run defense played pretty well in this game overall. The pass defense was the problem. Justin Tucker, real interesting start to this game. Justin Tucker had made 27 straight field goals on the road, missed a 49-yarder. Lions take the lead late in the game. Because of these missed opportunities, the Lions hang around, and then the Ravens get the ball back. You do see Jackson make that pass up to about midfield to Sammy Watkins. They have no timeouts left. They run up. And see, because it's the Lions, there has to be controversy, right? The play clock on CBS Sports went down to 0, and it was 0 for a good 1/1000 count. It wasn't just 0 and then they snapped the ball. The referees, when they asked them about the game, they're like, well, the guys were in the place to make the call if there was a call needed to be made. So I don't know what that means. That 5-yard delay game penalty would have made it a 71-yard field goal instead of a 66-yard field goal. And you send Justin Tucker out there for a 66-yard field goal. Why not? He boots it. I mean, he couldn't have kicked it better. But if you watch the replay, it hit the front of the crossbar. It hit the front. It didn't hit the top of the crossbar. It hit the front of the crossbar. I think that because of where it was in its rotation, oblong ball factor, right, Cease? Mm-hmm. Game of inches, right? Game of millimeters, game of nanometers. I mean, you could kick this ball. He could kick this ball another 10,000 times and never do this again. Never do this again. Somehow, because of the way it was rotating, it hit the front of the crossbar and propelled over. And it hit like 25 feet up the net. It probably would have been good from like 80 if there was no net because of this odd way. It was disbelief, really. And as my good friend Uriah Zane Hunt via 313 said, this is what it's like to be a Lions fan.
That's what it's like,
yeah.
Lions fans. Okay. Jared Goff, 217 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs. DeAndre Swift, 14 for 47 and a touch. Jamal Williams, 12 for 42 and a touch. Would not be denied on his touchdown. Love watching Jamal, friend of the show, play. Khalif Raymond, speaking of friends, 6 for 68 is their leading receiver. DeAndre Swift, 7 for 60. Jamal Williams, 2 for 25. TJ Hawkinson, 2 for 10. Hush.
Yeah.
You have TJ Hawkinson.
Right.
You're fine. Maybe they could trade Trinity Benson back to the Broncos. Anyway, let's talk Lions before we're out of here on this one.
They hung around in this game, and what you saw was a game plan. So this is what happens when they're hanging around in a game, is they're going to be more conservative. Actually, Khalif Raymond, good to see him get in some run. And then the running backs, not much TJ Hawkinson. And I have to think the Ravens said, we're going to make sure someone other than TJ Hawkinson beats us. And the reality is, unless you're talking about a Darren Waller, whose floor games are like 5 for 55, or Travis Kelce, who just doesn't have floor games, this is just the ride at tight end. This is just how it's going to be, okay? So, yeah, you're not going to get too upset about this. Again, we'll see what they do against Chicago. That's probably going to be a really ugly game. DeAndre Swift looks good, even continually on the injury report with that groin injury. He's got the burst. He's got the juice. Jamal Williams, not as much, but you see the touchdown there. You see both of these guys getting used in the passing game. And, the range is a little bit different. Jamal Williams' range is more what the heck flex. DeAndre Swift is a solid running back, too. Sometimes, like today, a running back 1. But really, since I just have to put my heart out for Lions fans. because the crowd was into it. The crowd was not supporting this team like, oh, yay, you're actually in a game. The crowd was feeling it. They want this to happen. They want this to work. And I'll say this, because you talked about coaches and ego, and I want to come back to this moment that we saw that the coaching staff for the Lions stacked with former players. Why? One of the things they said was, well, if you're a former player who becomes a coach, you have to go back down to the bottom of the ladder again. You have to go get coffee. You have to take people to the airport. You have to be hungry. You have to want it. This team is hungry. This team wants it. They have buy-in. They still have problems. This is a bottom 3 roster in the NFL right now. They did get a good one in Penny Sewell. I'll say that. They got that pick right, not the more like the other people who came before them. Maybe Sewell would have been a better pick than, say, Jalen Waddle. So you feel that the buy-in is there. This is a team pulling together, and they've got each other's backs, and they're playing hard. And you really wanted to see them come through here, not just because we're Steelers fans, because what's that even mean anymore? Right? So
reliving the glory from the 70s.
Right, exactly. So Lions fans, don't give up. Don't lose the faith. And hey, next week you could have that breakthrough against Chicago.
You know the only thing I pray for, Bloom?
What's that?
That your internet makes it through the show.
Cox Communications. There goes our monetization.
Yeah, make sure nothing's pulling on your internet. We're not quite to virtual Sigmund, but there's a little, like I'm in 1080 HD, which maybe isn't a great thing for some people out there. And then you're like fuzzited, like, remember when it wasn't even like 1080i or 1080p, it was like 410p.
Right.
SD, right? Remember that? I was actually watching Nick Ferguson play. I had Jay Cutler's first start on DVD. I found my nice. Blood In, Blood Out DVD, because Blood In, Blood Out is a fantastic show, fantastic movie. Huge, like Mexican epic movie, like 3-4 hours, whatever it is. So I love it. Bound by Honor, Blood In, Blood Out. And it's only on DVD. Like you can't buy it digitally. So I was digging for that, and I found it. And alongside it, I had Jay Cutler's first start. And that's when Nick was on the team with the Broncos. So I put it in to watch it. And watching football in non-HD, I sound like a diva, right? But watching old games when it's non-HD, you're just like, oh, my eyes.
Just make it all. They should just convert them all to Tecmo Bowl. Every game from like before 2003 when we watch it, it should just be Tecmo Bowl. Much more entertaining.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Colts and Titans up next, 25-16. Titans get the win. You don't feel confident that they get this win, right? Because you're like, there were plenty of moments in this game, and Carson Wentz was fighting. I regularly make fun of Carson Wentz. I regularly talk about how he'll freeze out his own teammates if they're not. Tell me if you heard this before, Bloom. You don't agree with me, so I'm not going to communicate with you or involve you in things. Carson Wentz does that to his teammates. So I've talked about that, but I got to give him credit. He was out there with his Ace Ventura and Diego. I totally stole that from you, but he's like Ace Ventura with the 2 spears in his legs. Like, Wentz was out there, and boy, he was playing Chuck and Duck, right? Did you see that? It was like, Chuck, Duck, get out of there, get out of the way. I was only sacked a couple of times on those bum ankles, 194 yards. Michael Pittman, 6 for 68 in this one. Nyheim Hines, 5 for 54. Zach Pascal, 2 for 31. And I think he had a drop touchdown. Memory serves. Memory hazy, Bloom. Nobody else did anything. Jonathan Taylor, though, 10 for 64. Hines had a rushing touchdown with 25 yards rushing as well. So, like, they fought, but this was an ugly game for both sides. We'll get to Tennessee in a little bit, but it was ugly for the Colts, too.
It was ugly. It was ugly. What you can see in this game, Cease, is the Titans will win the division by default. And and you wonder if Chris Ballard will play some dirty pool with that first round pick, because this team's 0-3 now, the Colts, and the Eagles have the first round pick if Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps. So having him start, and I get it, and I like it. I like the idea of playing him even though you have every incentive not to, even though he has every incentive not to rest and be healthier. This is a showdown. This is one of the games that could decide the division. And is it good for the team? I don't know. Because, as you said, Cease, Carson Wentz was limited. And then Carson Wentz, without his mobility, is just a very average quarterback. He's like Matt Ryan, like right now Matt Ryan, like not the good Matt Ryan, you know?
Yeah.
So
that Matt Ryan's gone.
Yeah. Still taking him over Ben Roethlisberger. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, Cease, what you saw here, Nyheim Hines, and we continue to see, and some of it's game script related, I'm sure, but playing from behind, we saw Nyheim Hines again, like week one, as a part of a committee in this backfield. So Jonathan Taylor still looks good, but Naeem Hines got the touchdown on the one good drive. There was a touchdown there for Michael Pittman, and Wentz just missed him. So Michael Pittman was solid, could have been even better. But until Wentz is better, and see, that's why you wonder, are we going to stay stuck on Groundhog Day now, right? He played, he was adequate. At least they made a showing they were competitive. Next week they play Miami. And how are his ankles going to get better if he continues to play? Is this going to be where this Colts offense stays? I don't know. But obviously Jonathan Taylor's not what you expected. Naeem Hines remains a flex. Michael Pittman more of a wide receiver 3 flex. Quentin Nelson got hurt in this game, by the way. Ankle. So he had to be carted off. Again, the Eagles feeling really good holding that first round pick. Going to Miami, now you're looking down the barrel of 0-4, whereas with Tennessee, they had their game that they came out of the coffin last week against Seattle, and now they're the ones that are alive while the rest of the division is looking forward to the future.
Well, remember how we always said, like, I wonder what it's going to look like with Julio Jones and A.J. Brown on the field together. It's week 3, and we're still wondering that.
No, geez.
We're still wondering, like, I wonder what it'll be like, because their leading receiver was Nick Westbrook-Akane. And I think I mispronounced his name, but forgive me. 4 for 53 and a touch. Julio had 3 for 47, and he was on the bench for some of this game. A.J. Brown gets hurt, didn't have anything, had a couple targets, no catches before he was out. I mean, Jeremy McNichols had a receiving touchdown. Chester Rogers had a receiving touchdown. Derrick Henry, you got to do everything, which is fine. He can. 28 for 113 in this game. Also 3 for 31 as a receiver. So they win. Tannehill, 197, 3 touchdowns, 2 INTs. They win, Bloom, but it's just like, man, Brown hurt, Julio's banged up, and hey, it's just not sharp.
No, it's not. But it doesn't need to be sharp. Just get to the playoffs. Try to get everyone healthy for the playoffs, because they should be able to back into a division title here. And here's some good news if you're a Titans fan. Mike Vrabel is learning 21st century analytics and game decisions. He went for it on 4th down. Remember the playoffs last year? Cease, they were up 7, and he went for 2. He went for 2 to make them go up 9, and understood that it's better to have a chance to go up 9 than just concede and try to go up 8. Also, they don't love their kicker, so that could be part of it. You have the A.J. Brown hamstring, Julio getting banged up and blending in. Westbrook-Akane had a fumble in the red zone. So, this team overcame some miscues, but he caught all 4 of his targets. You had Xavier Rhodes' pass interference setting up a Jeremy McNichols touchdown. And this is how this offense is going to be. Like you said, Derrick Henry, do your thing, big man. And look, Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback, and he's a winning quarterback. He's a quarterback that when the game focuses on him and says you have to make a play, he wants that. He wants that focus. So that's another good thing here. And now the Titans can exhale. They beat the Colts. They have basically asserted control over this division, and they get to play the Jets next week.
It's almost like in relationships you'll see with your friends, Bloom, where it's like, okay, the two, they're just better together.
Yeah.
With Arthur Smith, because it's not like Atlanta's doing anything.
Right.
But it's just like, it was so good with Arthur Smith and Ryan Tannehill and everybody, and then they split up, and then it's just
it's like a band, Cease. Sometimes you don't want to have the other guy get the spotlight, so you go out and do your own thing. But maybe you just keep the band together.
I'm gonna have a solo project.
Right.
That's right. Chargers and Chiefs. This one was a fun one. My God. And you love seeing Justin Herbert out there. 30-24. The Chargers win in Kansas City. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Mahomes was like 16-3 against the AFC West before this game.
Right.
16-4 now. But Herbert out there dealing 4 touchdowns, 281 yards. At the end of this game, Brandon Staley, who I guess I could say friend of the show, but like Brandon Staley was doing this weird, like, let's just score now type stuff instead of the veteran coach, like, run it down and then kick your field goal and let's go home. Like, he was like putting the ball up there, and Keenan Allen was making these plays. There was, what was that? Was it a 4th down when they went to Jalen Guyton? You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, what are you doing? Mike Williams plays the X, as we were hit over the head with that this offseason. Mike Williams had 7 for 122 and 2. Keenan Allen had 8 for 50 and 1. I just love watching Keenan Allen play, dude. It's so sweet. Yeah. Austin Eckler, 11 for 55, 6 for 52 and a touchdown there as well. No one else does much of anything at all. Jared Cook, remember when that was a thing? Like, maybe I should pick up Jared Cook. Maybe you shouldn't. 2 for 27 today. So the Chargers get the win, and I love it because they weren't bullied, they weren't intimidated. And this thing with Herbert, again, he's a different dude, which is good. Different is good. But like he doesn't know he's supposed to be rattled by this stuff.
Nope.
Right? It's just into like, I'm gonna go make this play. I mean, he was throwing just daggers in the face of all this pressure. Game on the line, game's tied. There's no way you could win this. It's Kansas City. And he's just out there like slinging it, making high degree difficulty throws. It's wonderful to watch. And I'm so glad that this will be a rivalry. Hopefully we get to see for the next decade.
Yeah, whatever we curse the football gods for, Cease, we need to thank them for giving us Justin Herbert. Giving us Justin Herbert, whose destiny was so strong that even Anthony Lynn couldn't obstruct it. Joe Lombardi can't obstruct it, right? So many layers to this game. And like you said, Herbert, not only is the stage not too big for him, you just get the feeling that every play is the same for him. He could be on a practice field throwing the pass on the route, just warming up, or he could be with Arrowhead with everybody focused on trying to rattle him. It's the same for him, and he can put the ball wherever he wants to. And we talked about this in the preseason. Brandon Staley is going to change the destiny of this team. Last week they lose to the Cowboys. There's these miscues, and the miscues happen again in this game. They cost themselves another touchdown on an illegal shift. It happened again. In fact, we can fast forward to the crucial juncture of the game. It's 24-24. They're driving down the field. They have a 4th and 4, and they get a false start. Are you kidding me? The false start moves them back to like a long enough field goal that it doesn't feel good to try that field goal, because even if you make it, you're giving the ball back to Patrick Mahomes with like a minute left, up 3. And if you miss it, you're giving the ball to Patrick Mahomes tied at like the 40-yard line. He goes for it on 4th and 9. Oh, mwah. Brandon Staley's going to lead us into the future.
And that was the Guyton throw. That was the 4th and 9. Guyton.
Right. And that is also next level stuff, because you know they're okay. So if you're defending that play, first thing you're going to do is take away Keenan Allen.
And Tony Romo said this is going to Keenan Allen.
Yeah,
and then he throws it, and it's Jalen Guyton.
Because you know they're not going to be expecting it. So, Cease, even mentally, when that ball snapped, whatever guy's responsibility Jalen Guyton is, probably mentally just kind of taking the play off.
Yep.
Because if it ain't going to Keenan Allen, it's going to Mike Williams. And then you have, as they're talking about the chat room, okay, sure, you're right, Cease. They scored with like 30 seconds left and gave Mahomes a few shots. But score the touchdown, okay? Mm-hmm. Make sure, this is a team that has seen touchdowns taken off the board by penalty. Just score the touchdown. And at least according to the chat room, and I'll believe them, it was a run play, and Herbert said to Williams, run the fade. And yeah, when coaches tell us, like Joe Lombardi did, that a player is in a role that is going to be big for fantasy and is that direct, we should take notice. Mike Williams, I don't even know where he would go in drafts. Right now, that first week sticking with him. Herbert was better in the red zone. You saw them get over those woes. Kansas City's defense is not good. Eckler was great. Eckler was great running inside. See, so whenever Eckler became a thing, did you ever think you would see him running between the tackles the way that he is?
No, it's not his forte.
No, and they're making holes for him, and he's getting downhill quickly. He's running hard. He's getting small. He's running with good pad level, good lean. Keenan Allen's still really good. I mean, nothing that Mike Williams is doing, even though he's upstaging Allen for fantasy football, nothing is diminished about Keenan Allen's game. This is a fantastic team. And Derwin James got a little banged up here. Joey Bosa played through an injury. He had a few plays. You could tell he was gutting it out. The AFC is wide open. Wide open. I think you've got Buffalo, and why not Tennessee? I mean, Tennessee has enough playoff experience now that once you get to the tournament, to see who's healthy there, right? I don't know if anybody from maybe Cleveland, but then you can look at this division that you have, Cease, and the Chiefs are now at the bottom of, as of right now.
Right.
And the Chargers are exercising the demons. They're exercising the demons of all of the ways they found to lose games. They found a way to win this game.
Found a way to win it. That is for sure. It's Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom. I feel like I need a cigarette after.
Yeah.
And didn't Tom Petty have a song, Into the Blank Wide Open?
Into the Great Wide Open.
Great Wide Open. Okay. Yeah. I was like, Into the Wild Wide Open?
Under
what was it?
The skies of blue.
Blue. And Pat Mahomes was blue. I mean, he was getting in guys' kitchen, which he should, because you had Travis Kelce show up and Tyreek Hill show up-ish, but like they have to. And I thought that Romo was appropriate, and I'm kind of glad now people don't like, he's a wizard. How does he know this? Like, he's reading the safeties for the love of God, and he knows the game. But he's not Nostradamus when it comes to this. Even Nostradamus wasn't Nostradamus. That's a deep one, Bloom. But let's talk about Kansas City, because you're putting the roof on this offense. That's what you do defensively. You play umbrella, basically, and like, you're gonna dink and dunk all day. Kelsey's gonna have the day like he had, right? Travis Kelce's going to get 7 for 104 because you put a roof on. You make sure Tyreek doesn't beat you over the top. You try as hard as you can. They still try, speaking of try, to make McCole Hardman a thing. And McCole Hardman in this one did have a receiving touchdown, 3 for 33 in the touch. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a touch. Jody Forston, a touch there as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of touch, that was high. That was woo. Throw it up there. Let the big man go get it. Edwards-Helaire had 17 for 100, Bloom, but it didn't feel like it, right? In watching this, whether it was the fumble, whether it was just his play in general, the timing of their runs. Like, if you're Buffalo, you just don't care about running. If you're Kansas City, you like want to show that you care, but you show it at the wrong times. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. At the end of the day, it didn't seem like that would be a 100-yard day for CEH, and it was. So good for him, but bad for the Chiefs because now you're 1-2.
Yeah, at least the good news for the Chiefs are the Chargers and the Raiders. We'll get to them in the second half of the show. They play next week, so that's going to be fun, old AFL style. First, I want to say Andy Reid left the field, left the stadium in an ambulance. The word is nothing serious, precautionary. So wasn't feeling well after the game. So we love Andy Reid, man. We can say a lot of things about coaches. We don't have a lot of bad. Andy Reid doesn't fall into the ego stuff and all the other things we say. That's how we ended up with Patrick Mahomes, right?
Right.
You knew it was going to be a different kind of day, right? Patrick Mahomes does a red zone no-look pass, glances off the hands of the receiver. There's good old Asante Samuel making a sprawling interception. Oh, the interception Asante Samuel didn't make. We remember that. This was a day I think that Eli Manning got put in the whatever they call it in East Rutherford that you get to go into. Tyreek Hill had a fumble.
Yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a fumble. And Cecil, I think you're right that maybe the takeaway here isn't Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back and play him. Although, next week against Philadelphia, we'll see. Their run defense stuff. It is that the Chargers' run defense is something. It's the soft underbelly of the defense. It continues to be the soft underbelly of the defense. Dallas understood that and went after it last week. Kansas City was able to exploit that. Edwards-Helaire looked pretty good this week. Again, next week, Peyton Barber, we'll get to that. Jody Fortson, a backup tight end, needed all of his 6'6". Hardman had one of those little push pop pass touchdowns, so it wasn't really he used his speed, burrowed into the end zone. And this team, see, this is a script we've seen so many times, right? Like Kansas City gets outplayed, they shoot themselves in the foot, they make mistakes, and then somehow Mahomes just gets them back in the lead, and everything falls their way, and Kansas City wins, and everybody's shiny, and everyone's happy. But no, that was not this time. Again, Brandon Staley going for it on 4th and 9. And there was a chance late. Byron Pringle, they had one timeout left, and Byron Pringle had one that he would have caught around the 20. And they could have called the timeout and had one shot from the 20-yard line. He could not catch it. So we'll see. And again, Philadelphia's coming. We may say a lot of bad things about the NFC East, but I think this Philadelphia team isn't necessarily going to roll over for Kansas City next week. You're 1-2. You could easily be 0-3 because, again, Cleveland and that terrible punt and all these other punt attempt and all these other things, so that it did happen. Like, we just can't beat the Chiefs. It's always going to break their way. So they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable. The Chargers are saying, this is different now. We're a different team. We have a different coach. Things are going to be different, and I can't wait to see where it leads.
Speaking of different, our revamped website at footballguys.com. Our chat room's commenting on that. Thank you guys for checking out footballguys.com and subscribing to footballguys.com. You love this show. First, do all the YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid, and go to footballguys.com. Sign up for our free daily newsletter. Join us now. Orange button, right-hand side. Join now. Become a Football Guys subscriber. Great price and a great product. Obviously, I've worked for Football Guys since 2005. Bloom, you were 2006.
Yes.
So we are a couple of the OGs for Football Guys, and that's the way you support the show. I love the Audible. Okay, footballguys.com. Thank you very much. I love when the Saints make sense, Bloom.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
that makes sense, but I'll throw it to you anyway.
Right.
28-13, the final score. Saints over the Patriots. And Jameis, it worked. Jameis was in there, a couple touchdowns, 13 or 21, 128 yards passing. Marquez Callaway, that actually worked this week. Now that I've either dumped him or benched him in all the leagues where I was like, even Stink, Mark Schlereth texted me. He's like, hey, my daughter's doing a fantasy draft for me. I think it was for Fox Sports or something. And I was like, get Marquez Callaway. And so, late, obviously. And now he finally came through 4 for 41 and a touch. Alvin Kamara, 3 for 29 and a touch as a receiver, 24 for 89 on the ground. Taysom Hill came in. That worked. He had the rushing touchdown. And he was taking some big shots, Bloom, like huge shots. What? Kenny Stills? Nobody started him. Yeah. Tony Jones, I'll keep an eye on him. Adam Troutman, I'll just dump. Right? Yeah. Boy, does Jameis Winston love throwing to his tight ends, unless it's 2021. But either way, that what they wanted to do, Bloom, against New England, remember that.
Yeah.
What they wanted to do made sense, and that's why I liked it.
Yeah, this is going to be a team that it makes me think of like MMA. I don't watch a lot of MMA, okay? But I do understand that in an MMA fight, you have sometimes fighters that have different styles or different strengths, right? Like if it's the fight is going to be fought on the ground as opposed to toe-to-toe, it's going to favor one of the fighters. So New Orleans is going to want to turn games into street fights. They're only going to want Winston to throw the ball about 20 times. They're going to want their defense to dictate the game. And if they can't do that, you're going to have a game like last week, and Carolina's dominating them. I don't think Carolina's that much of a better team than them, but that's just how it's the classic turtle on its back, right? Jameis Winston is not the quarterback you want trying to bring you back from down 2 or 3 scores. It's just, and Terrell Armstead, their left tackle, got a little banged up in this one, so we'll see. Kamara got a catch and run touchdown to open things up, and Kamara, and you see, he's not built like Derrick Henry, but he basically was that Derrick Henry role for them, keeping the offense on schedule, taking all the punishment, taking the focus of the defense, so that some of the things they were doing were going to work. But it wasn't really a prolific offense. They got a pick 6 in this one. They really made Mac Jones look like a rookie getting ahead there. The Marquez Callaway touchdown. It was a blind pass. I mean, it was truly one of those, no. Oh, yay. Okay. Yeah. And there's absolutely no way Jameis Winston knew where he was throwing that ball. And it was in the red zone. It was in the end zone. He threw a ball up for grabs in the end zone. And not to a specific spot. Marquez Callaway bailed him out. Not that we're going to go back to Marquez Callaway, because, again, this team is going to aim to see how many, they're not going to have more than like 50 or 55 offensive plays in a game. They're just not going to sustain these long drives. Maybe when Michael Thomas comes back, this is their blueprint. And if you can get them off of their blueprint, Giants next week, so I don't know if the Giants are going to be able to do it. If you can get them off of their blueprint, they're going to struggle. But New England just does not have the wattage on offense right now to dictate anything. So that's where we are, folks.
Right. Great play from Kendrick Bourne, right, where he's thrown on the side. Mac Jones on a back foot, I think, and Bourne like tiptoes and then gets it over the pylon. 6 for 96 and a touch. Mac Jones, 270, 51 passing attempts. That's not the plan you want going in. And again, this was 14-3 at half. That's not great, but you can still run at that score, certainly. Jones was the leading rusher.
Yeah, that's bad.
Okay.
That's
Damian
really bad.
Harris, 14 yards, nothing. Ramondre Stevenson can't even get active. Okay. Right. Brandon Bolden, when I saw Brandon Bolden and I was rubbing my eyes, I was like, what? Like, okay. Jacoby Myers, 9 for 94. Hunter Henry, 5 for 36. Jonnu Smith, terrible. 6 targets, 1 catch, 4 yards. What the one bounce off his hands, right, Bloom?
Yeah.
And you know what they say about tips and overthrows. Got to get those.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just not much here. You have an assembly of talent, and it's just not coming together. And on a bad day like this, New Orleans can take advantage.
Yes, they did. And like you said, the pick 6 was not on Mac Jones. Maybe it could have been thrown a little bit better, but it went off of Johnny Smith's fingertips. It was an easy pick 6. They abandoned the run. Mac Jones and leading rusher should never be in the same sentence. We know we've gone astray. Speaking of preseason style football, we know we've gone astray when Mac Jones is the leading rusher. They didn't establish the run, which, this team, like you said, Cecil, even down 14-3, they needed to be more patient. But what you did see, because it's Mac Jones, he's going to be somewhat effective on the short and intermediate stuff. So Jacoby Myers had a day. Kendrick Bourne had a day. Bourne's touchdown was really nice as they were trying to come back in this one. Hunter Henry did a little bit, and you want to watch Hunter Henry because if Johnny Smith is outside of that circle of trust, I think they both had 5 targets, but Henry didn't have his go for pick 6. We're going to watch this, but again, New England's not that much different. It's like Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man sees, right? Because New England's the same way, right? They want to keep a game low scoring. They want to keep a field position game. They want a game that's, because the Saints had a block punt in this one too, right? The Patriots are the team that uses those things to swing games. So they faced a team that had a similar blueprint for a win, and they don't have the offense to counteract that when it's not working for them. Next week, Tampa Bay's coming. Do you think this is what the NFL schedule makers were picturing when they put this on the calendar? Oh, Brady is coming in. No, this is not an anticlimactic game, to say the least.
That is for sure. Speaking of anticlimactic, Bloom, as soon as this show's done, I'm going to go back and I'm going to put the timestamps in, right?
I
think people are going to skip over Falcons and Dolphins.
In a game that may determine the order of the top 10 of the draft.
Yeah, and we totally forgive you if you don't want to listen to Atlanta and the Giants. It's 17-14 in the game where you thought nobody wanted to win this at one point. Right. Matt Ryan side, 243, 2 touchdowns, no INTs, but still these back foot passes, these fluttering things. It's not Matt Ryan. No. Cordell Patterson had 7 for 20 on the ground, 6 for 82 as a receiver. Calvin Ridley had 8 for 61. Kyle Pitts, he did try to hit him in the end zone one time. That's the one target that didn't hit, but 2 for 35 on the other one. Olamide Zacchaeus, 1 touchdown receiving. It was TD Lee and not Lee Suggs, Bloom. We've been doing this a long time. People are like, Lee Suggs? Who's that? Virginia Tech, look it up. It was Lee Smith, Marshall. Saw him at the Senior Bowl. He's huge and not huge in fantasy. Lee Smith's mother doesn't roster him in fantasy, okay? Nobody plays
he's a tackle.
Exactly. So here we go. Mike Davis, 12 for 50. We have to talk about this game.
Yeah. So it happened. Get it done. They won. I mean, really, what this tells you is, boy, the Giants. Oh man, just like watching Detroit having trouble against the Ravens. You thought, how bad are the Packers defense? How bad is the Giants defense? That Matt Ryan actually looked like a functional NFL quarterback. You saw Cordell Patterson, Mike Davis with the split, and Cordell Patterson. They're doing a good job. So here's rational coaching: get Cordell Patterson out in space and let him do his thing. And that leads to a flex play, depending on where he's eligible in your league. Could be a wide receiver 3 or running back 2 in PPR league. And Mike Davis, there are worse desperation plays out there. He's getting his work. Calvin Ridley's okay, but see, this isn't what we were picturing, right? We weren't picturing 8 for 61 from Calvin Ridley. At least we got the 8 catches, and he's going to lead the team in targets. Kyle Pitts, there's just no rational coaching here. And I'm frustrated because Kyle Pitts looks like Kyle Pitts. He's translating athletically against NFL players, and they're giving him a lot of attention. Okay, let's be clear. Kyle Pitts is getting double teamed, but the Falcons aren't doing anything to leverage that into success for the offense. And then you see Kyle Pitts finally in the fourth quarter, they target him. It took until the fourth quarter to target him. That should never happen. That's worse than Mac Jones leading rusher. And he gets a 10-yard catch. He gets a 25-yard catch. He's in the end zone. He draws a pass interference. And this is the fantasy gods. They're playing a joke on us. Lee Smith gets the touchdown. So next week, again, it's Washington, another bad defense. I think we're going to go back to Kyle Pitts. He helped set up the win. He's a very important player for this team. And again, I think this is one we'll look back, and Atlanta trying to get their quarterback of the future next year. Maybe a win like this will end up being a loss when we see how the draft order pans out.
Well, at least like our man Benjamin says, Saquon looked good. Yeah. So let's roll through the Giants. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay. This was the day when Sterling Shepard let you down, 2 for 16. And, Evan Ingram can't stay healthy or play when he is healthy. So there you go. Let's talk Giants.
Yeah, and this game looked like Daniel Jones was going to be slinging it, and they're going to go up and down the field. Then Darius Slayton gets hurt. Sterling Shepard gets hurt. Now, all of a sudden, and this is still supposed to be a matchup that you can exploit, but Grady Jarrett makes a stack, holds him to a field goal. Evan Engram fumbles. At least Azeez Ojulari, the second-round pick, saved that from being a scourge. Saquon Barkley did get a touchdown here and was used more in the passing game. Now, will he continue to be used more in the passing game when Shepard and Slayton are healthy? We'll see. Kenny Golladay, maybe they didn't plan on relying on him as much as they did. Not that he was shouldering the load here, but this is an Atlanta defense that was really easy to solve for the opponents in the first 2 weeks. Was not easy. Dante Fowler had a key sack. At key moments in the game, it was not the Giants making the plays. It was the Falcons making the plays. And since we're in a similar situation to Chicago, where unlike, at least with Chicago, we know Justin Fields could become something. I don't know what Daniel Jones could become. I know what he's going to become with Jason Garrett. I know what he's going to become with Joe Judge. I know what he's going to become with a roster stocked by Dave Gettleman. Well, the Giants have the wisdom to figure this out. Next week, they go to New Orleans. They're not a team that's going to get New Orleans off of their blueprint for a win. Probably going to be another ugly game for the New York Giants.
Speaking of ugly, and Bengals and Steelers are up next. 24-10, the final score. Joe Burrow, 172, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. 2 of them to Jamar Chase, 4 for 65 and 2. Tyler Boyd got another one, 4 for 36 and a touch there. Joe Mixon, 18 for 90 in this one, and not much else from anyone else because you didn't need it. And this is a situation with the Bengals. It's like, okay, showing off some of the young guys. I got it. Burrow to Chase. That's going to be a thing. And it was today without a Wattless Steelers defense, Bloom. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, exactly, Cease. And that's a critical point of failure for the Steelers defense, especially when Alex Highsmith is also hurt.
Yes.
They cannot. I mean, TJ Watt is more important to this team than any other player, period. I mean, he's probably more important than the next 3 most important guys combined. All right? And Ben Roethlisberger's not even in the top 10. Joe Burrow, he had one. He didn't have an interception for 199 passes, 3 and 4 passes last week. Early on, he forces one into a crowd. Terrell Edmonds picks it off. Roethlisberger just gives them an interception right back. Boyd had a touchdown here. Jamar Chase. Let's talk a little bit about Jamar Chase. Again, he's just following the path of his college teammate, Justin Jefferson. Who cares about camp? Who cares about preseason? Let's see what happens when the lights turn on in the regular season. And he's doing it. He had another long touchdown on this one. He had a short touchdown on this one. Here's one for you. Jamar Chase is now the youngest player to have 3+ touchdowns in his first 3 games at wide receiver, breaking the record of Randy Moss. When you're breaking a record of Randy Moss, that's pretty good. That's something that definitely deserves noted. Joe Mixon's fine. Didn't have a big fantasy game, but as long as this team is balanced, this team ran like 42 offensive plays. So you feel for the Steelers defense. Cease, have you heard this before about the Steelers? They can win like 80% of the plays, but the 20% of the plays they lose cost them the game. And then fashion in this one where it wasn't even close. So low volume pass offense, sorry for fantasy, but you still see Chase getting it done. You saw Boyd getting it done. This team's 2-1, and guess what? We are going to get to see this team on Thursday night against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The all big cat matchup, as my Siamese is straight back there. Hi, Opal. I love you, Opal.
Siamese, man, they know. Opal's probably looking into the future right now. She'll tell you who the Steelers are going to draft. Yeah. I'm telling you, Siamese are special.
I don't want to know.
Special cats. Special cats.
They are.
That's for sure. Steelers, deep. Not so very special. Roethlisberger, can everybody see it now? Please? Can everybody just see it? Like, he's done. He's washed up. It's over. The Roethlisberger era is over, and everyone knows it except for Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger. The people who need to know it. Like, but it's just done. Like, he's throwing 19 passes to Najee Harris. Not during the season. Yeah. These are in one game. And Najee had 14 for 102. So, yeah, he came through with volume. But has Najee Harris, and I know he gives gamesman-like effort, okay? And I was the guy saying, I'm taking Najee at the end of the first round in every draft that I can. I want him. He's going to be the centerpiece of what they have to do. They have to use him. And they did use it. They used the hell out of him, Bloom. But have you ever watched a Najee Harris play and been like, oh, my God, like, it's amazing? Or did you go, Trey Sermon could do that? Javonte Williams could do that if he hangs on to the rock. Spoiler alert. But, like, Chase Claypool, 9 for 96. He's a little bit banged up. Juju got a little bit banged up, 3 for 25. Pat Freiermuth had a drop and 3 for 22 and a touchdown in this one. James Washington's good. He just doesn't get any run. He'll be a second-team guy, although he already should have just left in his contract anyway. No Deontay Johnson in this one, of course, and it's just It's just this is what we're going to see. Yeah, it's over and it's done. And I don't even care who's up now. I know it's the Broncos in a couple of weeks. The Broncos will tear them up.
It doesn't matter.
And the Bills, this will be the game that keeps the Bills out of the number 1 seed.
Right, watch it.
That's the game. Oh, they lost to the Steelers in week 1. That's why, Buffalo.
And in 2021, we'll always have that Buffalo game, Cease. We can always remember the underdog Steelers, it's because they're underdog for good reason. Roethlisberger threw 2 interceptions to Logan Wilson. He threw the ball 58 times. You do not want this version of Ben Roethlisberger throwing the ball 58 times. That's not a recipe for winning. Like you said, for winning your fantasy matchup with Najee Harris in a PPR league, with Chase Claypool in a PPR league, because once Juju Smith-Schuster goes out, well, that's all he really is going to rely on. Pat Freiermuth did have a little touchdown that was almost like a shovel pass inside. So they did get a good play call there. You want to really sum up this game, Cease. And Juju with the rib injury, we'll see what happens. They go to Green Bay next week. You really want to sum up this game, and you just want to see just how feeble the Steelers are right now, and just how easily. First of all, I want to say this. Jason LaCanfora had an item this morning that said, talk to executives around the league, and they said they're really worried that Ben Roethlisberger's in steep decline. He just doesn't have it anymore. And I said, you could have asked any of us a year ago where you don't have to worry about hitting up your executive sources. Do you have eyes?
Sources are bad PR guys with Jason LaCanfora, unless it's with the Ravens or Washington.
Sure.
Because he's in that region.
Right,
but LaCanfora has been wrong about so much. And I don't like taking, well, I guess I take personal blasts all the time. But anyway, it's bad for business. Like, no, if Jason LaCanfora is reporting, it's probably old or garbage.
Yeah, and it would have been like at some point last year if someone said, executives around the league think that Drew Lock isn't a long-term answer quarterback for the Broncos. Right. Oh, that's a real scoop that you got there from your sources. Here's this game in a nutshell, okay? Steelers are down 24-10. Okay, they're still trying to fight back into this game, okay? It's probably they have like a 1% win probability. They're down in the red zone. They end up at 4th down and 10 from the 11-yard line. And this is how easy it is to get the Steelers now. This is how weak and feeble they are. The Bengals show blitz. The Bengals look like they're going to bring the house, right? 4th down and 10. You're at the opponent's 11-yard line. You have to throw basically into the end zone. You were making get the ball out quickly. Ben Roethlisberger, the wily veteran, says, oh, I'm just going to dump it off to my hot read, Najee Harris. Guess what? Psych! They dropped everyone back into coverage. Najee Harris was tackled to like no gain. On 4th down and 10, with the game on the line, you throw a dump-off pass because that's how afraid you are of getting hit. That's how afraid you are of having to maneuver in the pocket and do something. The Steelers are cooked. They are toast. And not even good toast. Not even like avocado toast or toast with peanut butter and honey and banana or something good.
Okay, peanut butter. Now you're making me hungry.
Yeah.
All right. Cardinals and Jaguars up next. I was like, are we done with that one yet? Oh, my God. We got this one to talk about. 31-19, the final score. Kyler Murray, 316, no touchdowns, 1 INT. It wasn't hitting today for Kyler necessarily. He'd like keep the play alive, Bloom, and then nobody would break open like they normally would. Andrew Wingard got him one time, right? Andrew Wingard, Wyoming Cowboys, baby. And then I forgot to talk about what's his name for the Bengals, Wyoming Cowboys as well, Logan Wilson, the linebacker. Yeah. I talked to Andrew Wingard. These are the type of flexes I have at the Wyoming Pro Day twice. I talked to Andrew at his Pro Day because I think that was Josh's Pro Day. And then I went to see Logan Wilson, and Andrew came back. So it was like, how was your first year in Jacksonville? So anyway, some Wyoming Cowboys, maybe not on offense, Bloom, but on defense, Wyoming Cowboys, baby, making plays. And I'm talking about Andrew Wingard instead of talking about Kyler Murray and James Conner with the 2 touchdowns. So here's what happened. They would get close, and Conner would plunge it in. Keep that in mind when you're considering your flex options. AJ Green, 5 for 112. Christian Kirk, 7 for 104. DeAndre Hopkins, 3 for 21, and only targeted 6 times total.
Yeah.
And there was the sideline play, a couple sideline plays, I think, on the left side that didn't connect with DeAndre. Chase Edmonds, 7 for 49, and this one, 11 for 26 as a runner. Kyler Murray did have a rushing touchdown to help his fantasy day. So it's like 31 points. You see it, and you're like, oh, my God, 31. Right, way to go. But it's like, not the fantasy bonanza that you were thinking.
No, unless you finally got what you were hoping for from James Conner. Let's tell the James Conner story first. I like that story. Chase Edmonds got a 1st and goal carry from the 2 and got stuffed. And then Conner comes in. They call Kyler Murray bootleg. He walks in. Man, the game goes on, and eventually James Conner gets 2 rushing touchdowns, and this is how it's going to be. Some weeks you're going to get 4 or 5 points from Conner, but especially in your .5 PPR non-PPR leagues, he's got some play because unlike the Steelers, the Cardinals are not going to wear him out. The Cardinals are going to use him the right amount. Like you said, Murray had that double coverage, deep interception. He's just missing Nuke. He's missing DeAndre Hopkins. See, sometimes we do fantasy analysis where we say, oh, the big target hog is out or limited or a decoy, and that means there will be more targets to go around. And that's true. And if you played Christian Kirk or you played AJ Green, you were really happy. But at the same time, for Kyler Murray, it wasn't quite as big of a game. Although, again, if Murray finishes those drives instead of Connor, for fantasy, we're all happy with what we got, and we're still fine. If this is a floor game for Kyler, you'll take it. It's Jacksonville, so you were expecting a bigger game. So you saw AJ Green still has some play. Even Max Williams, that's messing things up a little bit. Max Williams is contributing, and Christian Kirk looks really good. And it was Rondale Moore coming off of the momentum from last week. And again, you would have had a theory, well, hey, if Nuke's not going to get his main targets or the focal point of the passing game, then that's a good thing for Rondale Moore. Not there for him. He even had that goal line carry, but was tackled short of the goal line. Regardless, this team has taken care of business against 2 bad teams. Well, Tennessee's bad, I don't know, but they took care of business of them like they were a bad team. They eked out a win against Minnesota, which isn't looking so bad now, right? Now you get to the actual schedule. You're going to face the Rams. Time to find out just how tall you are, Kyler Murray.
Rams talk. Let's get the Jacksonville talk done first. Trevor Lawrence, 1 touchdown, couple of picks, 219 yards passing. DJ Chark with the touchdown, 3 for 49 and a touch. Marvin Jones Jr., 6 for 62 in this one. Visca, 4 for 48. James Robinson, 15 for 88 and a touchdown rushing, also 6 for 46 as a receiver. And so you see the pieces that we respect and appreciate. They do some stuff, but there's no way that it's close. And then, that's pretty much it, right? Except for the big return. We're going to talk about the big return.
Exactly. Well, that was the other weird play. Before there was the 66-yard field goal, there was the attempted 68-yard field goal. And I get a text from the world-famous Eric Stoner. And he just says, Cliff is a moron. So, because there's Jamal Agnew with the third 109-yard play in NFL history. Antonio Cromartie, who I think came during Adrian, and Cordell Patterson. Yeah. So that's as long as it can be, folks. 109 yards. Jamal Agnew. It still doesn't matter. And speaking of Wyoming Cowboys, baby, Jacob Hollister had a bobble that turned into an interception in the red zone. There was an interception on a trick play that was telegraphed. A telegraph trick play. These are your Urban Meyer Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the good news. 2 other quarterbacks have had multiple interceptions in each of their first 3 games. Peyton Manning and Troy Aikman. So I guess that's good. I don't know. It gives me hope because if I was an NFL quarterback, I would certainly throw multiple interceptions in each of my first 3 games if I made it to the 3rd game. If I made it out of the first quarter of the first game. James Robinson looks good. And James Robinson's always going to play with pride. James Robinson doing it as a receiver and a runner. And in so much as the team can be competitive, they will. DJ Chark looking good on his end zone touchdown. Marvin Jones doing enough that if you're keeping him in there as your wide receiver 3 flex, you're okay with that. Laviska Shenault at least wasn't a total bust. Well, you get to watch this up close and personal, all kinds of detail on Thursday night in the Big Cat Bowl between the Bengals and the Jags.
Okay, Jets and Broncos up next. It is a Broncos show, but you could probably skip this one
every day.
Every day. Yeah. Jason never makes the recap shows.
Yeah. Well, he's probably just on a bender after the Raiders won.
Probably. 26-0, the Broncos win. Let's talk about Zach Wilson. Only 2 picks today. Sacked 5 times, excuse me. He just got sacked again 6 times. 160 yards. Corey Davis, 5 for 41. That's his, security blanket. Keelan Cole, 2 for the. Why am I reading this? Braxton Berrios, 2 for 26. Doesn't matter. Michael Carter. Wow. Michael Carter did get more work, right? We said after the Patriots game he deserves more work. He got it. He just didn't do anything with it because, it's the Broncos defense and they beat up on a rookie quarterback. Shocker. But at least with Wilson, you're not seeing him crumble. You're seeing him affected by pressure, certainly. Right. And he does not know how to climb the ladder. My God, he doesn't know how to climb the ladder. But you're seeing the tools. You're seeing, he's not losing his spirit.
No.
So there's some things to be taken away. It's just ugly right now.
Yeah, you almost get the feeling he understood that this was how it was going to be at first. But you can't evaluate him. Please don't tell me he's a bust.
Right.
because you just cannot evaluate him like this. And he's not feeling sorry for himself or otherwise letting this get to him. Corey Davis got a lot of targets. At least he wasn't a bust. Next week, the Jets have to play Tennessee, so an old revenge game for Corey Davis. And that's about it. Elijah Moore had a concussion. Just like the Lions today, we're going to have a few games where the Jets are competitive. We're going to have a few games where Zach Wilson can get things going because it's just unfair. We look at the defenses he's been facing: New England, Denver. Carolina's defense looks pretty good. At least next week against Tennessee, maybe we'll get to see a little more of what he's capable of. But I'm, like you said, Cease, I'm impressed that facing this, he doesn't look like he's backing down at all. He doesn't look like it's letting him rattle him or change, because what you worry about, whether it's Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson, whenever their careers start under these kinds of conditions, it can take a quarterback that under different conditions could have turned into maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the game, but they learn so many, not just bad habits, but it's just like trauma, Cease, right?
Right.
Let's like Eric Stoner again. Eric said we need to have a Freudian conversation about imprinting on quarterbacks, because it is like early childhood trauma, and the rest of your life you're reacting to it, and you don't even understand why. You don't understand why you get emotional sometimes. You don't understand why you can't handle something when it seems like you should be able to. It is that, and this is the early childhood for these quarterbacks. At least it doesn't seem like Zach Wilson is too traumatized yet.
Teddy Bridgewater out there, 235 yards passing, no touchdowns, no INTs though, very important. Timmy Pats catching everything thrown his way, literally 5 targets, 5 catches, 98 yards. Cortland Sutton, 5 targets, 5 catches, 37 yards. That's different. Javonte Williams, it started out, had the rushing touchdown, had a catch or 2, and then he had 3 for 33 on the day. He finishes with 12 for 29, that rushing touchdown, and a fumble that was so bad that Demaria Crockett, and only if you're a Missouri fan or Drew
Right.
Lock, do you know who Demaria Crockett is? He got the final carries of the game because Melvin Gordon, wrapped it up 18 for 61 and a touch, and then Gordon with the catch for 21 yards. Noah Fant, 2 for 15. The Teddy Fant thing still seems a little bit off to me. And whether it's the Giants game or this game, there have been some passes where they're just a little bit off rhythm, and I would actually blame Fant in this, not Teddy. Just because Teddy's so precise, and when you are precise, like Timmy Pats, he's going to find you. KJ Hamler with an injury so bad they didn't replay it. There you go. And so the Broncos were in training camp, are like, my God, I got all these receivers, and even this Trinity Benson guy could play. Now Benson's been traded, Judy's hurt, Hamler's hurt, and so you're down to Timmy Pats and Cortland Sutton. You're going to get force-fed, and hopefully if you're Javonte Williams, you hang on to the rock.
Yeah. And we'll see. It's funny, see, during this telecast, they said, or another one, the surprise 3-0 Broncos. Did you look at the schedule? It would have been a surprise if they weren't 3-0. Okay,
Right.
This just means that they're not one of the 10 worst teams in the league, because when they play one of the 10 worst teams in the league, they can beat them. And they can beat them pretty soundly, thanks to the defense. We don't say Teddy Bridgewater an offensive juggernaut in the same sentence. So if Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon are each getting a touchdown, then Teddy's not going to have a big day. Cortland Sutton, you wanted to go back because of how hot he was, but he didn't need to do much in this game, and we'll see. Against Baltimore next week, they may need him to do more, but the matchup's going to be a lot tougher. It was too easy. These wins are coming too easy, so you're not getting the fantasy bonanza. There was a question in the chat room, Unite Santini, and since you're highlighting it right now, the answer to it, will it take a Melvin Gordon injury for Javonte to take over? Yes. It's working, and there's no reason for them to change the 50-50 split. I know I'm stepping in your territory here, Cease, but I feel free to add anything you want. So they get 3 wins. They're 3-0, but don't mistake this for a good team. We're going to find out if they're a good team.
We're going to find out if the Raiders are a good team as they continue 3-0, 31-28, the final score over the Dolphins in overtime. And this one was wild and weird and craziness. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett out there, of course, in for Tua, who's on IR now. So this is a Jacoby offense. Okay, 10 for 86 for Mike Gesicki, fine. 12 for 58 for Jalen Waddle. Interesting, 4.8 per catch.
Even Najee Harris says, hey, throw him the ball down the field a little bit more.
Right, a little bit more. Devontae Parker, 4 for 42. Will Fuller, 3 for 20, and also had the 2-point conversion, right, off the Jacoby Brissett touchdown run. Malcolm Brown early on had a touchdown run. And so Miami comes out, it's 14-2, right? It's this weird score, and you're like, oh my God, Miami, look what they're doing. And then it goes, Raiders come back, and they score 17 in the second and third quarter combined. And then the Dolphins come back in the fourth quarter, and then it goes to overtime, and it's field goal. Raiders win. But with the Dolphins, it's a data point with Brissett, and as you said, a Brissett may not be you shouldn't downgrade Miami players too much from Tua with Brissett in there. And against this tough Raiders defense, I give Jacoby Brissett a lot of credit.
Yeah, Brissett is making himself some money. Brissett might not be good enough to be a long-term answer at quarterback, but he's the kind of quarterback that can save your season. Couldn't you imagine?
Teddy's Bridgewater.
Right. For a winning team to have someone like Brissett as your backup makes you feel like, hey, if our quarterback has to miss a few weeks with busted up ribs or something like that, we're going to be okay. And the Miami Dolphins were a game contender in this one. You had Landon Roberts with the pick six right off the bat. 25 straight games with a takeaway. Then the Raiders turn it over on downs at their own 34. So John Gruden comes back and says, we're going to go for it. It doesn't matter if we can get a yard. If we can't get a yard, well, you can't get a yard. Now it's 14-0, Brissett. Then the whole offense went into hibernation. When they went down 25-14, then Brissett comes back. He does the 2-point conversion at the end of the game. Then after the Raiders look like they're going to win, they held them to a field goal. Brissett goes down, get another field goal, but the defense falters. Well, I guess sometimes we look at these small samples when a backup quarterback comes in, and we need to pay heed to those. That's not even a saying. Mike Gesicki and Jalen Waddle were the targets. They weren't productive targets in terms of yards per catch, but they were the targets for Brissett last week. They're the targets for him this week. So especially in PPR leagues, you're going to take that. Mike Gesicki, who we basically left for dead. Look what a quarterback change can do. And then you have Miami facing Indianapolis. Two teams in a lot of turmoil. See, it's only week 4. It's still September. We don't necessarily think about elimination games, but I think this is a game that if either one of these teams who had designs on not just going to the playoffs, maybe winning in the playoffs, they need to win. This is a must-win game for both of these teams with banged up quarterbacks, a lot of problems.
Lots of problemas, and then with the Raiders, lots of momentum, lots of confidence. Even though this thing did end weirdly, Derek Carr, 386. 2 touchdowns, 1 INT in this one. Hunter Renfrow gets one of the touchdowns, and then Alec Ingold gets the other. You may have started Renfrow, who's a great slot receiver. Reminds me of a young Brandon Stokely. Darren Waller, 5 for 54. Floor game, you're fine. Henry Ruggs, 4 for 78. Brian Edwards, 3 for 89. Peyton Barber, 23 for 111 and 1 touchdown. No Josh Jacobs, no problem, and no Kenyon Drake ever. But either way, You saw how they got it done with Barber on the ground, Edwards, Ruggs, Renfrow, and a dash of Waller today to get the win.
The NFL's so weird. The Raiders could easily be 1-2 right now. They wouldn't be a sensation. They would just be the same underachieving Raiders.
Right.
Instead, they're 3-0. The Steelers win. I mean, it was a road win, and it was a win where they won decisively. Maybe it's the least impressive win out of the 3. They had to win this game like 3 or 4 different times to finally win it. Carr is dealing. Can't you feel at this late? This is pretty late in a career for this to happen, Cecil. But can't you just feel Derek Carr kind of growing another size outside of himself? I think probably why the NFL always rated him higher than us is that you knew he wasn't going to make a lot of mistakes. You knew he was going to play within the balance that the coach gives him. But now you see him making more plays, or you just see him more confident. And I think the team is following his lead. You see the running game get going. Like you said, Kenyon Drake, you thought, well, if Josh Jacobs goes down, then that's Kenyon Drake. No. It's Peyton Barber who actually was getting it done in this game. So the Raiders against that weak Chargers run defense, I guess we're going to be talking about Peyton Barber unless Josh Jacobs is ready to play. Darren Waller was contained again. It's not any problem with Darren Waller. Okay, teams are just bracketing him. Teams are saying you have to beat us with somebody else than Darren Waller. Waller, again, his floor games, you will still tolerate at the tight end position. Bigger games are coming for him, but that means that Henry Ruggs, Brian Edwards, they're getting their opportunities to make plays downfield, and they are making those plays downfield. Edwards with a big play to set up the game winner. And then there's Hunter Renfrow. And isn't Renfrow just a perfect player for a quarterback like Derek Carr, who's going to see the field well, he's going to process everything well, he's going to make good, valid decisions, good throws, and you saw Hunter Renfrow getting open early. And what a game. Raiders, Chargers, next week we have that to look forward to. We get to see all of these AFC West. See, so we knew the NFC West was going to be must-see TV when these teams hooked up, but now we're looking at the AFC West. You can put any combination of two teams in the AFC West. It's going to be good football. Next week, we get to see Vegas and the Chargers. I cannot wait.
I cannot wait to see your reaction when I say Buccaneers Rams is our next game up, because wow, what a game. We're in DGF mode for Matthew Stafford, and most of the time we always talk about Adam Gase, right? You get away from Adam Gase. Even his high school team won the championship after he left. LSU won a national title after he left.
Some teams should just hire Adam Gase so they can fire him and then send the team off. Yeah.
Right. No, it's a part of our plan.
Exactly.
But with Matthew Stafford, we know, because the Lions are such a gravity pulling, the absence of light.
Right.
With the Detroit
hole.
Lions. So we didn't get to see Barry Sanders with another team. We didn't get to see Calvin Johnson with another team. We get to see Matthew Stafford with another team, and it's damn good. Damn good. 34-24, and it's not even that close, right? The final score will be 10. Oh, Tampa Bay put up a fight. Not really, Bloom. And again, I'm dialed into the Broncos, so I'll dig into this a little bit further, but it always just seemed like the Rams built this lead, and then the Buccaneers tried to make a little bit of a comeback, fell short. 34-24, the final score.
Yeah.
Brady, 432, one touchdown in this one. Gio Bernard, that was the late touchdown for Gio, 9 for 51 in this one. Mike Evans, 8 for 106. Chris Godwin, 6 for 74, and then a rushing touchdown. Brady had a rushing touchdown himself. Of course, nobody dives it in from the one better than Tommy Brady. Tyler Johnson, 3 for 63, and then Rob Gronkowski, 4 for 55 in this contest. And well, again, you were more dialed into this than I, because I'm dealing with the Broncos. But was it like that? Whereas the Rams built this lead and then Tampa fought, but it really wasn't as close as a 10-point deficit would indicate.
No, it's because of Stafford and because of the offense. We'll talk about that in a second, though. The Rams have the Bucs number. Remember, the Rams beat them last year in Tampa, 27-24. And that was with Jared Goff. That wasn't with Matthew Stafford. What a difference a quarterback makes. Brady, it was rough going for him at first. You did see Chris Godwin get a rush touchdown. You see garbage time, really. The numbers pile up for this pass offense. But the Rams defense really held up in this one. Brady was harassed a lot here. Rob Gronkowski didn't do as much, had an injury scare in this one. One thing we did learn is Tyler Johnson is going to be a player. He's going to start at some point. He looks good. And he was definitely ahead of Scott Miller with Antonio Brown out with the goof in this one. Giovanni Bernard, because they were behind, was on the field a lot in the second half. Caught a lot of passes, including the garbage time touchdown. Got a little banged up, got flipped on that. This team's vulnerable. This team is very vulnerable. Look, Matt Ryan, who we were talking about at the top of the show, came back to make that game 28-25 last week. They easily could have lost to Dallas in week 1, and they were soundly beaten by the Rams. Have I mentioned that the NFC is also pretty wide open? So at this point, if you have your Super Bowl favorites, there aren't really Super Bowl favorites. But I do think that we can say Tampa should be a favorite at New England next week.
And isn't the Super Bowl in LA, right?
That sounds right. LA or Vegas, one of the new stadiums.
It's LA. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's LA.
Yeah.
So LA playing at home. Matthew Stafford, 4 touchdowns, 343. He's always been this good. He always has. It's just been to Detroit. And now we get to see it. We actually get to see it. Deshaun Jackson, 3 for 120 and a touch. Talk about what the heck flex. Cooper Kupp continues, 9 for 96 and 2. Tyler Higbee, 5 for 40 and 1. Van Jefferson, 4 for 42 in this one. Robert Woods, 3 for 33. So of all the skill position players, you're like, Woods is the one that let you down. Everyone else pretty much comes through. Solid enough, right?
Yeah.
Sony Michel in, no Darrell Henderson, 20 for 67. Okay, hard fought yards is Tampa Bay. I mean, my God, that front seven is just tremendous and aggressive. Yeah. So Michel, hard fought yards for sure. But Stafford just dealing. And Stafford, not intimidated. The Bucs are legit as far as defensively and offensively too. But Stafford didn't hesitate, didn't back down. DJAF, Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, he's not afraid of losing the game. He's going to win the game. And the Bucs have a lot of injury problems. This is why maybe Richard Sherman's going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer next week, because they have a lot of injury problems in the secondary. So you're going to start everybody against the Bucs because you're not going to run on the Bucs anyway. So next week, New England, well, I don't know, maybe Jacoby Myers, we'll look at him, we'll look at Kendrick Bourne. But you saw them come out with a game plan, a lot of Tyler Higbee early, and Higbee's kind of like TJ Hawkinson at this point. He's had 2 good games, 1 dud. Well, you'll take that very good game from him. Deshaun Jackson, hey, Cecil, it's week 3, he's not hurt yet. Wait, I shouldn't jinx. I bloomed him. I bloomed him. Whenever Zach Wilson just got sacked, he got knocked into the back of like Deshaun Jackson's leg or something. 3 times he's open deep. And the Bucs, like you said, that front seven, Jason Pierre-Paul didn't play in this one, but still they have a very good front seven. They just bring in Joe Tryon, Schwinka, I forget the new hyphenated part of his name. I'll just say it. The point is they can just bring a first rounder in when they have Jason Pierre-Paul go down. So they put some pressure on Stafford. He wasn't able to get the throws downfield. Deshaun Jackson was wide open. Then when they finally do, Sean McVay runs, they said, as fast as he ever has in his life. Can't you just feel Sean McVay saying, yes, I knew it. I knew we could do this. If we just had a quarterback, we've got a quarterback. Yeah. And now Deshaun Jackson is stretching the field. And would Cooper Kupp be the first wide receiver drafted if we drafted today, Cease?
Yeah.
I think so. I think he's a first-round pick. I think he's a top 10 pick we drafted. It's just beautiful. Seeing what he can do in this offense with Matthew Stafford. Just, if you drafted Cooper Kupp, congratulations. If you drafted Robert Woods, it's like the old let's make a deal. Behind this door, a brand new car. Behind this door, some hay and, a pitchfork. I mean, it's a zonk. Robert Woods is the zonk. And Cooper Kupp is the big winner of the day. As you said, Tony Michel grinding out the yards. We'll see about Darrell Henderson next week. The Rams and the Cardinals, again, all of these NFC matchups are going to be must-see TV. And what you have planted here, Cease, is when these teams meet again, whether it's next year or in the playoffs, the Rams know they've got the drop. The swag, the 17-0 and all that stuff, no. Not when you're in the Rams' house, not when you're facing the Rams. The Rams, I think, can really feel like with this win that they're the big boss at the end of the NFC until further notice.
Why did you say hay and pitchfork? That's so random, right? New car or hay and pitchfork?
Well, because if you watched old Let's Make a Deal with Monty Hall, the zonks would be that random.
Be that ridiculous.
Like the zonk, and it usually have someone acting, right? So there'd be somebody that was like worked for the show that would have like a big bonnet on and be like, I'm just bailing the hay all day. Yeah. Right. Or it would be like you would win like a washboard, and someone would be like, I had to do laundry all day back here, or whatever. Yeah. So it was that ridiculous and random.
Okay, because I have opened my car door to find a bale of hay broken in my front seat. Because we used to do that. It's so stupid. Nobody do this, but like during Halloween after football games, like we'd run around and tear up the town. We played Ditch 'em, which was tag with cars.
Sure.
So it was literal like crash derby, but we did it with our cars. So
do not ever try this at home.
Right. It's a bunch of farm trucks, right? And then we used to take bales of hay and like break them in people's cars if you left your car unlocked after the football game. So
there you go.
Learned that painful lesson one day, and it's just what you do.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of Jose Canseco when he got pulled over with the goats in the backseat.
Okay, we got one more game to talk about. It's Seahawks and Vikings, and 30-17. Minnesota not giving up. They are 1-2. Seattle is now 1-2 as well. And with Russell Wilson, we'll see what happens next year. But for this year, in this game, 298, 1 touchdown, no INTs. DK Metcalf, 6 for 107 and a touch. It looked like he came down weird on a play a little bit later, Bloom. Let's talk about that. Tyler Lockett, only 4 for 31 in this one. Gerald Everett did something, 5 for 54. Chris Carson did the rest, 12 for 80 on the ground, 1 rushing touchdown. So you just see this disconnect. And on that fourth down play, and God bless Penny Hart. Like if there's a Penny Hart Flan Club, it's only got 3 members, you, me, and Matt Waldman. Okay. Saw him at the Senior Bowl, looked better than Andy Isabella, but who doesn't? Right. But on fourth down, and you can tell this tale, Bloom, it was 4th and whatever, right? 4th and forever. And Russell Wilson throws to Penny Hart.
Yeah.
Like seriously? Like Penny Hart's not going to make that play for you. Not now.
Right.
Like it's just and 1-2. And remember the rumblings about the team thinking it's time to move on from Russell. Well, 1-2 doesn't change their minds.
No, it's not going to change their minds. DK Metcalf got off to a hot start. Tyler Lockett really didn't do much this game. Both had injury scares. So we're going to be watching practice reports on them. And maybe Gerald Everett did have 5 catches in this one. So maybe that could open the door for Everett, not in the way we're looking for. It didn't take long for them to turn back into a pumpkin in some ways. But some of this is Minnesota is really firing on all cylinders. Chris Carson had a really nice long touchdown run, and then they abandoned the run. Cease? Is this what it's come to? We're criticizing Seattle for abandoning the run? I guess so. Am I talking right? Am I dreaming this? Is this really happening? I heard the words come out of my mouth and my voice, but it just doesn't feel right. So Seattle's got to figure this out. The defense is not helping them, and they have a showdown with San Francisco next week. So as we speak, San Francisco is playing Green Bay, not looking very good, but it doesn't matter. Whenever these NFC West teams get together, throughout the records, throughout the trends, throughout the matchups, it's going to come down to a lot of heart and a lot of team pulling it together. And you wonder if Seattle, who had that game in hand against Tennessee, if that rattled them, if that undermined their confidence. I also wonder, and Cease, I hate to say this, but how much longer can Pete Carroll coach? How much longer can he really be an effective NFL head coach? His era has passed, and Russell Wilson is good enough to will this team to be a winning team anyway. But you just wonder about this team. Shane Waldron. It's kind of like the Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy situation where maybe that someone other than the head coach should be the head coach. But we're not saying that about Mike Zimmer. Minnesota fans, Ryan Bozer, everybody else, enjoy this one, and all of a sudden, hey, the NFC is wide open. Minnesota goes into Arizona and all but beats them. Minnesota soundly beats Seattle. They should have, I shouldn't say they should have beat Cincinnati, but they could have beat Cincinnati. They took that game to overtime. And the other thing I'll say here for Mike Zimmer is they didn't release Greg Joseph. Greg Joseph has the latest infamous miss in Minnesota kicking history. He comes back, has a great game, along with the rest of the team this week.
Rest of the team, including Kirk Cousins, 323-3. Love that alliteration there.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Jefferson, 9 for 118 and a touch. Tyler Conklin, 7 for 70 and a touch. Adam Thielen, 6 for 50 and a touch. No Dalvin Cook. Alexander Madison, 26 for 112 on the ground, and then 6 for 59 as a receiver. So you plugged him in and played him. You're very happy and very excited if you're a Minnesota fan because you finally got a win, and a big one against Seattle.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson looks like Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen, not going to get high yards per catch, but he's going to be your man in the red zone. And Tyler Conklin came out and focused on him early. And see, if you just scanned the box score and you didn't look at the names and you saw that box score line in the Minnesota backfield, Dalvin Cook played, and he played well, right? Oh, no. That was Alexander Madison. And we've said this a few times, but it hasn't quite come to fruition that in terms of the rhythm and the burst through the line, Madison can do a decent impression of Dalvin Cook. Now, last year against Seattle, he did have a tremendous game. Now, didn't Seattle lose that game at the end? Minnesota lose that game at the end. So, things change, things turn over, and Madison had a terrific game. And looking forward to next week, Minnesota and Cleveland, what gives you peace of mind if you're Mike Zimmer, if you're the offensive coaches, hey, if Dalvin Cook's 50-50, you're not quite sure if he's there. That's why you have Alexander Madison. That's why you traded up, they think they traded down 3 times. They knew Madison was going to be there. They got their Matt Waldman RSP. They said, Alexander Madison's one of the best running backs in the draft. We can trade down 3 times and still get him, and they did. It was all brewing, culminating in this day.
And KJ Osborne only had 2 catches.
Yeah, well, and this is where, if the Vikings defense is bad, then Cousins is going to throw the ball 40 times or more, and Osborne's going to clean up. If the Vikings defense is good, like it was today, then KJ Osborne is kind of an unnecessary piece for the offense.
It is the Audible. It is our Week 3 recap, and we end the show with something that you had talked about this Sunday morning on our YouTube channel, Bloom. I wanted it in our audio version as well, and I wanted to share my thoughts also on the passing of Mike Tagliere, who had been on the couch however many times, right? A dozen times, whatever it was, and just a great man. Like, we can talk about the fantasy side and, in the industry and all those sorts of things, but like, good people are hard to find.
Yeah.
Okay. Good people are hard to find. And when you find one and that person has great success and has a great family and has great happiness and great passions, whether it was his Mustang or now his chopper, because he got rid of his Mustang because of the country roads they moved out to Tennessee, to now have him pass on the other day. And yesterday, I know it was tough for you, Bloom. It was tough for a lot of people out there. And as I sat there and I was looking at some of the quotes that Mike had put out on his Facebook page, there was one that I screenshotted and I wanted to read it to everybody here on this show. It says, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." And then on the caption of the picture, Mike wrote, and this was back in July, Mike wrote, just a little motivation Monday for everyone out there. Once you realize just how fast this life can go, you'll unlock a sense of motivation you've never had before. Don't waste time. #motivation. And we know all the stories about whether it was his father, himself, Mike Don't Quit, right? That hashtag MDQ, Mike Don't Quit, and Tag Strong. We'd all been there as he'd been in the hospital, Bloom, and we'd all been pushing and mentally sending those vibes and sending those positive thoughts. And yesterday was a hard day, and I know it was hard for you especially, and you wanted to read something about tags here as well.
Yeah, and I when on the YouTube show this morning, I spoke for a while. I got emotional. I'm going to probably get emotional again. I'm going to echo some of the things I said, but first I'm going to read something that his wonderful wife Tabby posted, along with the news that we lost him on this plane. This is Mike on July 22nd, 2015. Most people need to be backed into a corner in order to fight back. It takes a tragedy for them to wake up and realize what it is they're fighting for or what they should have been fighting for. That's not out of the ordinary. It's human nature. I know this because it took my dad passing to realize I needed to stop smoking. I'm smoke-free, by the way. I've been there. My dad did the same thing. It took cancer to realize that we should have been telling each other that we loved each other. At that point, we did. We also started a saying, PDQ. It stood for Paw Don't Quit. That's the purpose of this post today. Nothing tragic has happened, and I'm not backed into a corner. As a matter of fact, I may have to take a step back in order to move forward. I'm as motivated as ever been, and I'm going to do something about it. I won't stop until I reach my goals. Mike won't quit. That's what I want people to say about me. I want them to say that I'm relentless. I want them to know that I need this, and although I may get turned away a few times, I'm that much closer to getting a door opened, and that door will open. Why? Because MWQ. There will be days where you wonder why things happen. But remember this moment. If it were easy, everyone would be living their dreams. Make it happen. We just don't know what we have until it's gone. I know that something he had sent to Mike Clay, he said, I was a realist and I'm becoming a dreamer. And I'll just relay some personal stuff. Mike reached out to me a long time ago. I can't even remember how long. It was probably around the time that he wrote that. And as soon as I got a feel for his vibe, for his soul, a golden soul indeed, I knew he didn't need any advice from me. I needed advice from him. He was somebody that I think most of all, and this is why I didn't want to do the show today. I didn't care about football today.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if my start sits weren't good calls. But he, as much as any of us, more than any of us, was so grateful for the opportunity to get to do what we do. And he cherished it and he treasured it and he worked so hard. Cecil, I think he even worked harder than you. Sorry. He worked so hard. He really poured himself into his work and he poured his soul into his life. And that's why so many people came out to give him tributes, because he touched everybody. He and Tabby both, they touched everybody. It was impossible to cross paths with him and not be touched by him and not see how remarkable of a person he was. So I ended up like the way I ended up this morning, Cecil. And again, I'll say that the quote is attributed to Banksy. I don't know if it's a Banksy quote or not. And the quote is, we all die twice. We die when we take our last breath, and we die the last time somebody says our name. And we will make sure in these fantasy circles to let the name Mike Tagliere ring out for a long time. And I want to have the names like Jeff Wilson and Jim Ashwandon and my mom, Tony Belsky, and my stepdad, Mike Belsky, and my stepmother who passed away this year, Marsha Bloom, and so many other names. And I just want to encourage people to really cherish and treasure not just the people that are still here, but the people that are lost on this plane, because they are still here with us and in us. And the more you talk about them and the more you remember them and you bring back and you just think, well, what would they say? How would they react to this? What would they think right now? It brings their presence back. So Mike's gone, but he's not gone in a permanent sense, or in a sense that he can't continue to affect us in a positive way like he always did. This is an incredible community. I was blown away seeing what people have done for Mike's family. It's a beautiful thing, the way we support each other. And just like we always have, Cease, like I say, when you ask someone for help, you're doing them a favor because you're giving someone the opportunity to have grace flow through them. And you all have done such a good job of that, letting us help you. through difficult times, and you're helping us through difficult times. And this is difficult times for our community, but we're going to pull together. And Mike, the last thing he would have wanted was for us to lose our passion for football, for fantasy football, or for being part of this community, because it was the fire in him. It glowed so brightly. We're going to make sure that none of our fires dim at all, even though we're very sad today.
Very well put, my friend. Love you much out there. Thank you very much. And RIP tags. It's the Audible. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. Stay frosty.